Coco Johnson, your Lady of Wellness. Join me as I address topics in all things wellness, from mental health, social disparities, and education, advocating for those who suffer in silence. Hi, I'm Coco Johnson, your Lady of Wellness. Join me as I address topics in all things wellness, from mental health, social disparities, and education, advocating for those who suffer in silence. Brought to you today by Rosa Sharon All Naturals, your health and wellness systems. Today, we're going to get into the topics of financial literacy with my special guest.
Hi, I'm Linda Karressy, owner of Insight Financial Group.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for
you.
coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Do me a favor. Give the audience a little taste about who Linda is.
Okay, well, I am a fractional CFO. Most people do not know what that is as Chief Financial Officer, aka an accountant. So I do the books for service-based businesses and nonprofits. And the most thing I enjoy about that, I get to teach people about business literacy.
Awesome. So, what drove you into getting to financial literacy and, furthermore, helping other individuals with their finances?
What's interesting, when I went to college, we were taught how to just do the books, submit the reports. But what I've learned is I actually have to teach people. I want them to understand what's going on, and particularly when I'm meeting with clients, my goal is for them to understand. So I always say, if you're in front of a shark, you can be ready to explain your numbers. So I really got into the literacy part just because there were so many people that would ask questions, and they would actually come to me and say, you know what, well, I don't feel comfortable asking my accountants that. Or even when I worked in corporate America, sometimes I would just struggle doing the work, and I found out because people were uncomfortable asking the questions. So I was like, man, there needs to be more classes on accounting.
Yes, indeed. So you and I have a little bit of history. We have been talking about everything business related, and we've gotten to know each other on that level and understanding. And I am one of those people that was asking those questions. And so I thought it would be great for you to come on and talk about, how your finances match with wellness in your life. How do you pursue that? What makes it? Because a lot of us have what our parents did. Yes. Some of us have good structure there. However, some of us do not, and most of us, not most of us, but some of us have learned how the tricks and the trades just to survive. Yeah. So can you give me some insights on that?
You bring up a good point. So our personal habits, how we grew up, actually flows to our business. So if you're a business owner, if you have poor personal finance habits, they're going to flow. And so financial wellness is very important, particularly for business owners, because it's anxiety. A lot of us do stay up at night trying to figure out, how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to make payroll? Even, how am I going to pay myself? And so financial wellness is very important for everyone, because I think a lot of people don't realize how much stress it causes you. And so there are just, mechanisms that you can do. First of all, just asking for help. That's the thing. Financial wellness also, I've seen people, it can cause depression. Of course, it can, your business can close, but it can end relationships. A lot of times business owners are not physically healthy. And so financial wellness is very key when you are running a business.
Yes. Okay, I want to backtrack something. So you mentioned business owners, you mentioned depression, but I want to take it a step back. Before people decide, I want to go into business, personally, what have you ran into if a person just jumps right into the business scene without having their personal stuff together?
It's a combination. Sometimes it can work out, but for the most part, if you jump in, it will cause you a lot of stress, because if you just leave your job without a cushion, then you're basically living what I call client to client or order to order. So you want to make sure, unless it's a very stressful, if you're in an environment that's harmful to you, if you have to make that jump, make that jump. But just be aware, if you do just wake up and say, you know what, I'm gonna go straight into business without a plan. You need a plan. And one of the things is, how am I going to pay the bills? There's nothing wrong with that. How am I going to pay my personal bills? And you can get a part-time job.
So when someone does something like that, or they're let go from their job, and they are like, okay, so what's my next thing to go about doing? As far as I've always wanted to open this business. I've always wanted to go on vacation. I always wanted to do this, but I was always scared to do so. And also I was told that, life without paying your bills, you're just gonna dead on the street. So how do you address people who come to you in that manner?
I would say to them, be realistic. Is this actually a need or a want? Do you actually really need to take that vacation? Do you actually really need to start that business? So if you're in the instance where you are let go and you have to jump in, go for it. And you have to put your all into it. And just remember, there's nothing wrong with getting a part-time job. There's nothing wrong with, okay, you know what, I may have to sell my personal vehicle and take the bus. Also reaching out to resources. There's a lot of resources in the business community that can assist you regarding if you have to make that jump. So just use the resources you have so to alleviate some of that anxiety, because you will get it, because you'll start to feel that pressure when those bills are due.
So when you say that, does one who say that they decide to go that route versus the traditional, or most people have, well, some people have cushion or support from behind. For those individuals that don't have support behind, you're saying go to get a part-time job and then continue to work on your dream. Is that what?
Yeah, okay. I would say continue. You can. There's a different options. Part-time job. Another thing is, when you're starting your business, try to be as lean as possible. And what I mean by that is, you probably will have to be the one woman show or the one man show. Try to keep your expenses as low as possible, providing the best customer service, so that way you can pay yourself and possibly still put more money in your business. So that's another thing. Like, so you can go all in, but just be aware. Let me just kind of, in the mean, like for 6 months or a year, let me just, work it out, and I'll do everything so I can save some money. And it doesn't mean that you have to do every opportunity that comes along, but those are the things that you can actually do. Of course, there's business grants, line of credit. People have used credit cards, but I really suggest what we just talked about: part-time job, looking. I heard one pastor, even looking in your house, what can you sell? It was amazing when he was going through the list. I was like, oh, we could sell this and do those things. So just thinking out the box. How can you get additional income without putting yourself more in debt?
Nice. Okay, that makes sense. So let's take it a step further back. So when did you fall in love with financing?
I actually, in high school, to be honest with you, accounting was the first class that I really enjoyed. And I think since I was, still am an introvert, it was like basically an accounting class. We sat to, we had our own tables, our own book. We didn't have to talk to each other, all those things. And then I took computerized accounting. And then from there, I've always enjoyed it.
So let's move forward. So when you got the education, when you found out that you loved what you do, when did you decide that, hey, I want to help others understand and recognize that things are attainable, but at the same time being realistic, making them have the whole picture?
It's interesting because I think as I got older, I realized there was something inside of me that says I wanted more. Like the accounting piece, I was like, I kind of had this down pat. Because those of us in accounting, once you do accounting in corporate America, it's pretty much the same at every company. But I'm like, I needed more. It's kind of the same routine. And so I volunteered to teach computerized classes to those over 50. And I was like, oh, I like to teach. And so that's where I really got to thinking, okay, you know what? I want to teach financial literacy. I want to, show people, in simple ways how they can manage their business finances.
Nice. So when you were doing those classes, and you said the 50 and older crowd, so I can only imagine about what age they may be right now.
Yeah.
So those were the people that would stuff their money in their mattresses and not use bank systems. And when you found yourself talking and teaching these individuals, what do you think was like a positive outcome after the class for each one of them?
And I think for them, it was just realizing that they can actually learn. I'm not too old. Oh, just because I don't have a degree, those just people. I don't want to say simple, but just the realization that I can learn this, and that's what all people want. They just want affirmation that I can do this. And so I think that's what they really got out of it, is that I can go do anything now.
Nice. So have you done anything on the realms with teaching younger generations?
I've done some volunteer work, like with Girl Scouts. I'm a 21st Century Scholar alumni here in Indiana, and so I've spoken to college students and high school students about managing personal finances. Because I know for me, in college, after college, I had issues just managing even my personal finances. So I just share stories with them, just being very realistic.
Yes. So with that being said, with the younger crowd and teaching them about personal finances, even moving forward to adulthood and beyond, I'm sure you run into a lot of people that did not have that opportunity to learn those things. And when you do come across those, what are some simple things that someone can do to get started?
That's a good question. I think the simple thing is just start looking at your bank account. A lot of us don't want to look at our bank balance because we just assume it's not, that balance is not where we want to be. But just to start looking at your bank balance, I think that's very key. Number one. And then number two, for deciding, okay, what do I want to do with my life? What's the ending? Do I want to go on that vacation? Do I want to retire? And then set a plan for that. And of course, when you have a plan, it's going to change because maybe your job situation changes, family situation. So don't be so strict on yourself or hard on yourself. But I say just keep it simple. Start looking at your bank balance so you can start getting comfortable looking at the numbers and saying, okay, it's not where I want to be, but I can work for it. Because I feel like when you look at your bank balance and it's not where you want it to be, it's going to move you forward. And so when you're at, Kroger's and you want to buy that pizza, you'll be like, well, I already got something at home. So you start to make different decisions.
So I hear budgeting. So budgeting, give us a simple tip or a simple suggestion or tool that one could use when starting, even at any age. What is a good starting point
for budgeting? I think for budgeting, so some people say, well, have a spending plan. Whatever you want to call it, just have a spending plan to actually say, write down, get a notebook, and say, okay, you know what, I'm only going to spend so much on meals and entertainment, so much on movies. A good example is we spend a lot of money on subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, we got Disney. So start from there and say, okay, you know what, where can I actually start to cut? Or another thing is, where can I actually start to increase? So we focus so much on we need to cut. Let's see if we can actually increase our revenue. Oh, do I need to go beef up my resume? Do I need to talk to my supervisor, manager about my performance and say I've been getting a good performance the last 3 years. Is there a way for me to move up? So I would actually just start there, just very simple. Once again, be flexible, don't be hard on yourself, but just start writing. And I would pick one category.
Okay.
And say, you know what? For let's just say groceries, I only want to spend $100. Just start there instead of just trying to create this huge budget and then it gets overwhelming. But just pick one category.
Okay. So here's the nice, not so nice credit cards.
Yes.
Let's talk about the basics of that.
Mm-hmm.
So this applies even personally, or say in future you want to become a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
How should you treat credit if you've never had credit?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking generational. So like for those 60 and 70 year olds, most of them didn't so much rely on credit as far as in certain cultures.
Yes.
But they mostly pay cash with
Yes.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
So now fast forward in 2023, 24, sorry, you have, well, it's heavily based on credit.
It is.
So how do you, like, for someone in that category, how would one start establishing some credit, just because now they can't even find a place to live if they want to move out of their larger homes?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you're first just starting off, I would suggest getting a secured credit card. Getting a very low limit, $500, and then you can work yourself up.
So what's a secure credit card for those that don't know?
Yeah, so a secure credit card, so you can actually have someone, what I call like co-sign for you, and where, once again, it just has a specific credit limit. You can only go spend this $500. So it actually, with a secure credit card, when you actually start to pay on that credit card, it actually shows up on your credit report, which is good because it's going to show up that you're paying things on time. So secured is the number one thing. And use that secure credit card as if it was a debit card. So every time you use that secure credit card, just go and pay it off.
Okay. So you said something very interesting there, because I've been learning and I've been told that ditch the debit card and get a credit card, because debit doesn't necessarily help us.
Yeah, and I hesitate with that because we're human.
Yes.
And that credit card is very tempting.
Yes.
It is very tempting. A lot of people are saying use the credit card because of fraud that's going on.
Okay.
I never forget, years ago, a lady from she worked at a bank, and she says the only thing that she uses is her credit card. I was shocked because I'm the type, I just want to use my debit card so I don't have to worry about a bill. But she said just due to fraud, that in her opinion, it was better to use a credit card. So some accountants, financial advisors, they are recommending that. I don't see any problem with that. As long as you have something on your calendar to say, okay, I'm going to pay it off at the end of the month.
Nice. So fast forward. I know we've been all over the place, but I think this is good because you get a little bit of the idea of how people used to do things to how things are now. And things are so much ingrained of the tap. Not the swipe, not the insert, the tap. So could you talk a little bit about these cashless point of systems as well, on a basic level? Because I find that some of people I deal with, older generations, they're mostly want to deal with check and cash.
Yes.
But they're slowly, because they got grandkids, want to do Cash App. And then on the flip side of that, you have what you were talking about, the fraud and things of that nature. So for those of them that are out there that want to use cashless systems, where would be somewhere they would start, and what will be some security measures that they should always look out for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think you first start with your bank to see what systems they have that are possibly free and that are user friendly for your customers. So I think you first start with your customers, like you said, figure out, okay, are they paying by check, cash app, Zelle, those type of things. I would say when you're looking at those different options, look at the security, because you don't want your customers' information to be stolen. Number two, you want to verify if the money that you are going to receive is actually protected by the FDIC.
Yes.
So Cash App is not protected by the FDIC. What that means is if the FDIC says they will secure banks up to 250K,
What's
like
the
your bank.
FIDC? Can you
So
explain?
it's the
Federal.
that's a good federal
Oh.
deposit. What is it? Basically, it's the U.S. agency that oversees the banks.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
people know.
And a lot of people don't know. So, like, if you're in a business or even an individual, if you have over 250K, then they won't insure. So, those are the things you have to just think about. Like, is it safe? Do I have easy access to the money? I know when you're first starting a business, that's kind of like you just kind of trying out everything. But you really first, want to look at security and then what your customers want, and then thirdly, the bookkeeping. So the more platforms you use, the more your bookkeeping may be more complicated.
So, how do we wrap these things up into wellness? So, by knowing your money, by knowing your financial statements, by understanding what processes to use as far as how you want to pay for things, how does those type of things help balance us out as far as financial wellness?
I think first thing with financial wellness, don't be hard on yourself. So on the personal side, particularly with business owners, a lot of us don't take vacation or, just do things for ourselves. Do something for yourself, even if it's just going to the movies. And so part of financial wellness is, having fun. You got to have some fun. You just cannot say, I'm not going to spend any money for the next 2 to 3 years.
Right.
Even if it's just going to, Chick-fil-A, just do something for yourself. Number 2 is understanding if you need assistance. Like you said, not everyone grew up not knowing about accounting or business or whatever. So there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And then thirdly is action. A lot of us get so into our thoughts, confidence. Oh, I don't know math. I don't want the accountant to know. So I'm just going to continue in this, what I call organized chaos. So take actions, asking for help, scheduling time to do your taxes, whatever needs to be done. So I would really suggest that because once again, financial wellness, I've seen it really depress people. I mean, it really does, and it just you start to really close off and not even interact with other people.
Yep, I would totally agree on those notes. So tell people more about some of the things that you are working on as far as with your business. I know you do some video lives and you do the education piece as far as teaching and schooling in the business sector, but tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Okay, sounds good. So definitely you can check me out on Tuesdays and Thursdays on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. I do 2 weekly videos, everything regarding business and nonprofit finances. Try to keep the videos really short. Just addressing common problems and then providing solutions. And then secondly, I also have some online courses such as Quickbooks, budgeting for nonprofits and businesses. And then thirdly, doing accounting services for small businesses and nonprofits. And so that's a combination of doing the bookkeeping, doing budgeting. If there's one-on-one where you just want me to come in and look at your books and give you some suggestions.
So for those the resources that you have, like the budgeting and things of that nature, are those free resources, or how do you want to obtain those?
And actually, some of them are free. So, like the Quickbooks course is like $57, and actually, the Quickbooks course is actually a combination of several Quickbook courses that I've done over the years. The budgeting, so a lot of the budgeting, there's that's free. A lot of them are downloadable, like short video, one video, and then a downloadable, or an Excel spreadsheet where you can actually use that template. You don't have to create it. Nice. So there's a variety of courses online.
And so, real quick, so if someone wants to, the basic business owner, let's get to that, because it's a lot of people popping up, especially after the pandemic. Everybody has a business. What will be their 5 things that they should think about before they even sell a product or a service?
5 things. That's a good question. So number 1, Cash flow. So you want to process to make sure you're managing your cash. So make sure you look at your bank account. You want to set up your cash flow correctly. So you want to have an operating account. You want to have a account for taxes, and some people call it a reserve or savings account. Then you want to have, and what I had to learn, are marketing. You need a marketing strategy. And then also what I call leadership. You want to start looking at yourself, like, how am I going to lead? How do I do work? You want to look at productivity. How am I going to get these things done? What tools am I going to use?
No.
I'm not sure if that's 5 things, but I can
No,
keep
you
going
gave
on
me
and
five,
on and on.
But you said something really key. So it sounds like you're pointing towards some mentorship as well. So how important is mentorship when doing all this?
It is very important, because that's how I've just been able to stay afloat. Asking questions, even just emailing people that I don't even know.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, books. I think, like Nicole, that's how I met Nicole. Like, you just start asking people, and when you're ready to ask those questions and ready for that information, people will just start. You'll meet them in the grocery store.
Right. So with that, wouldn't you think about how you've produced in the world and how much you put out in the world? I just want to give some tips on the end as far as how people can connect with you. Are there other resources for people who are generational help, mid-adult help, youth literacy, any of those things for our viewers?
Yeah. So you can connect with me at my website at insightfinancialnd.com. Also, when you go to that website, you can actually connect to the courses, and you'll actually see resources there. I would recommend for finances, particularly for kids, junior achievement. There was one that just slipped my mind, but if you just Google, because actually I believe the FDIC has something for kids, which I think is really important to get them involved. They think they have free games and things like that.
Yeah. And also, do you work with CLD? I thought you worked with CLD.
No,
okay. Well, they have one as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, CLD has one as well. So, and just in terms of, we just wanted to bring in light of, finances is a dirty thing to talk about sometimes, or it's the fun thing just on what your bank account looks like. And for me, it's more or less, oh Lord, the daunting. But at the same time, I know it's necessary, and I find so many people out here in the world that are just operating on float, or operating out of being taught the incorrect way, or operating in positive.
Yes.
So just trying to figure out a way of learning those different tools, and learning that there are people out here like yourself that will be able to guide people into the right directions. Now, I'm not saying that you're for everyone. I'm just saying that you have the resources that maybe you can point people towards what financial freedom looks like, and what makes us an overall healthier human being when we're not stressing about our finances. So I want to thank you today for coming in and being on this show. And we want to wrap this show up with any last words.
I would say action. Take action. So write down one thing that you would like to do regarding your financial wellness, whether that is reading a book, looking at your bank account, creating a spending plan for one category.
Great. So this concludes our show. Thank you. And we'd like to introduce our sponsors, Rosa Sharon All Natural, the overall healthy complete system. And also, we'd like for you to join us and tune in and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And be sure to click on our next episode as we go into other things, all things wellness. Thank you today.